more in this map. And as you said, it's a very, very complicated one. So let's find out if Oxygen is truly prepared for it, as it is their pick. Or will TSM show up to be the stronger team today and knock Oxygen into the lower bracket in 2-0 fashion?
There's a lot on the board for both of these teams. Remember, folks, whoever ends up winning this major this weekend walks away with $62,000. You can put a little bit more on top of that, sprinkle on top of the pile for that last 500. But let's talk in big numbers. 62 grand for whoever ends up winning this weekend. All these teams won it. These guys have been fighting for major spots for so damn long. TSM and Oxygen onto theme park. We got Mav, Nomad, and Wamai off the board so far. Some unorthodox bans here from Oxygen. I like the Nomad ban. I like the Wamai ban coming in. We talked about how potent that was on Oregon, but the Nomad ban coming in again means that roam game is going to thrive.
Maverick was a pretty huge part on the previous map, and specifically on this map, he can be pretty quintessential to taking out some key reinforcements, so he'll be banned out. That does mean that Thatcher will be left in play, though, so standard hard breach procedures can easily be used by the attackers here. May have to work yourself past some of the denial, though, as none of those ops have been banned out here. Either way, we're going to get ourselves into the first round here. TSM has the defensive start since it's their opponent's map pick, and they're going to go right where we expect them to, into the throne room for their initial defense.
That's exactly what you'd expect, right? I mean, very, very strong start, difficult for the offense to try and work their way into, and TSM are also going to be switching things up on us. We're going away from the catcher of Jaeger, no ADS is in play, you're going to have to worry about all those throwables, but Pulse coming along for the ride, that cardiac sensor, so potent on maps like this, specifically on this site, verticality above, lots of soft destruction for Geo to work with, and he can also keep track of these Oxygen members for his TSM teammates. I mean, that's just great use of Pulse's kit. So very nice to see him come into the lineup here for TSM.
So interesting pickup here as Laxing's going to 6-pick over to the Kali. We talked about how Thatcher is actually in the pool right now and unavailable, but despite that fact, Laxing's going to bring Kali. There could be a couple reasons for this. It's still possible to trick right now, even with Thatcher in play, because Thatcher no longer destroys gadgets. He only disables them. So there are ways to play around that. Not so much, however, when it comes to Kali's utility, as hers actually still destroys utility. So have to see how well the denial game works out for them, because thankfully there's not going to be much to work against on the Oxygen front. TSM haven't really brought anything, so it should be a pretty easy procedure to work their way past some of these walls.
Yeah, this is actually going to be one of the harshest rounds that Oxygen could have 6-picked over to the Kali for, simply because
I'm like looking at it now, and
I mean, like, what are you going to do? They're all on Roam for the most part, right? Like, he's just, like, Laxing, for what Laxing does and what Laxing is truly worth, right? He's the guy that gets in the building, gets you those frags, and does it in unorthodox ways. He just outthinks people. Giving him a sniper, probably a good move, but with all these people on Roam, it's going to be hard for him to contest multiple gunfights simply because of the bolt time to put another round in the chamber. Geo's going to get spotted out down low, though, as Oxygen begins to work the map. But again, they have to worry about this Roam game, and they need early intel and frags quick.
Geo sitting directly below should be able to get intel onto the sledge that's worked his way into control already. That's Foxe maintaining that position. Laxing is also on the inside as well here. Enter the first 2 minutes of the round here, or I should say the final 2 minutes technically. That first minute's already gone by, and Oxygen's still focusing very heavily on the drone game, trying to isolate out the individual players from TSM that may still be roaming. More specifically, the players that may be roaming up on the second floor right now. That's the primary objective for Oxygen, is either push these players downstairs or, in an even better case, eliminate them if possible.
They're doing a very good job of making this Roam game back up, but now the main problem is not even in the Oxygen camp, it's actually in the TSM camp. Oxygen have established a lot of horizontal angles here to try and hold down these roaming members, and with Oxygen barreling down on them with assault rifles and everything else, it's going to be difficult for them to try and fight out of this, and if they cross into the wrong angle, there's a sniper waiting for them. I feel like we're playing a completely different game right now with him on the field. Oxygen working their way up top and getting another frag for their pleasure, achieved down at the bottom of yellow stairs. TSM to the slaughter as yet another falls to Foxe.
Down to just the smoke and the Malusi here now to play into this round. Merc and Chala gonna have to try and find some way to salvage this 2v5. Merc still in the middle of the Hornet's Nest too, upstairs. A lot of players could find him out at a moment's notice if he's not careful, but thankfully That has not happened yet, so he may yet have an opportunity to strike. He does hear the player running right past him, but
You're kidding.
may have already missed his opportunity and impact. There you go, though. Walks right into vertical. The first kill's been picked up. He's smart, actually, to not immediately hop down on this as he's waiting for a player to potentially swing out against him, but they won't do that because of that drone that was in position there. Mark has lost his teammate, but at the same time, the opponents have also lost another player. That plant should be going down any moment. I'm actually surprised it hasn't already started going down. There we go. Slash. Finally confirming it here for OXG, as more than likely OXG's also confirmed that Merc's off site. He'll be able to get another kill for himself, bringing this down to a 1v2. An initially missed shot from Laxing, but he's able to quickly get the rebolt off and finally nail the hammer down here, as we'll see OXG take control of the initial round.
I honestly thought that Slash nice shotted Laxing as well, but he fixed it. We're good. All right. So, but no, I guarantee you that his heart dropped when that first shot did not land. But overall, very strong round there from Oxygen, and I like how they're handling the top floor clear. John, this is something that we haven't seen people really utilize, this Kali M play with these long distance angles. We saw Laxing just for a split second there using that 12 times magnification as well, which is something I don't see anybody use ever. That thing looks farther into my own future than anything else. I mean, it's practically clairvoyant at that point. But I mean, even with him in play up there, like we were talking about before, if you make one misstep, you're dead. You don't have an opportunity to take that gunfight. He simply has to breathe on you, and you are now downed. So TSM have to worry about this for most of the time. Laxing hasn't had the largest impact just yet, just getting that last kill. But if he does start to warm up, this is something that TSM's going to have to try and work their way around.
So let's see if TSM can work their way around things on a different site. They move upstairs here next, going towards the bunks defense. More western of the two site choices here. They'll still play into the initiation room more than likely. We can already see the rotate hole that's been made there for Geo to use, if not him, then another player. And there will probably be a similar setup over towards the office if they haven't double reinforced that. Yeah, so got the same thing. One reinforced wall, one half wall here. Just giving greater capability for TSM to hold against that dragon clear that we saw Oxygen doing in the last round, and ultimately give them the capability to potentially take a couple of fights early on too, to continue furthering delaying things, and in a best case scenario getting some kills maybe too.
And that's the main game plan for Theme Park that we've seen from multiple teams, all across the board. We don't see a crazy aggressive defensive front on Theme Park. It's a lot of dwindling down time and taking away as much utility as you possibly can from that offense. And that's what all of these setups are, dedicated towards. We see TSM dedicated towards the center strip of Theme Park with reinforcements, ADSs, the whole 9 yards to try and slow down Oxygen and force them to use their utility early before getting to the actual site hold of TSM. These TSM members are just going to continually back up, especially if they get that early pick. This is something that we saw them do quite often on Oregon.
So just like last round, a lot of the early time here for Oxygen going to be used primarily for just droning, just trying to figure out what the setup looks like, because this is a very straightforward push they need to work themselves towards. A lot of that being denied right now, though. In fact, 2 players completely out of drones right now. The other's still pretty okay, as they should have both, or all 6 of the remaining drones are still going to be available to the players that have them, so not out of that game just yet, but the players that were on that duty a few moments ago no longer going to be able to hold those responsibilities. Foxe, as a result of that, will end up swinging into initiation. Geo, so unfortunate as he throws a nitro cell right in his own face, missing a potential kill opportunity against Foxe. Foxe will be scared out by it nonetheless, though, as he'll retreat to the inside of Control, and his teammate on the Kali, being played by Laxing there, not going to be too much further behind.
Well, this is a big round here for Geo if he can try and make this nitro land, but not gone off just yet. Seems to have been shot out of the air. Foxe going to try and force the situation, though. Pre-fires can't find Geo as he just continues to bounce around the office area. Gets found on drone and finally shut down, but not before he wastes 2 clean minutes. Great roam there from Geo, or at least an extended hold for him, but now it's down to the rest of these TSM members to try and make it happen. He stood up for him, but now they have to stand up for themselves. Chala's still having smokes on hand, as well as a nitro cell in the back pocket of Bolo. This is definitely doable, but Oxygen still having plenty of utility already at their own disposal as well. Not too many drones, though, and this is something that's hindered their success in the past. Vertical now trying to pressure onto Office, but this is where that problem is going to come in with those drones. They need these drones to know where the positioning is of TSM. As long as they don't have that, it's all face checks all the way, and you tend to see some things like that happen as Blue lights up the scoreboard, even onto their own team members, as actually it's down into a 3 versus 3. Achieved, and the rest of the squad currently poised out on the balcony, but oh my god, Biologic shuts down Merc. Oh, Oxygen all over the board. Chala, the last one remaining in a 1 versus 3, and Bio wipes the board with him. Oxygen claim round 2. Biologic, you absolute madman.
The land, man. The land difference is making the day here right now. Biologic absolutely destroys the efforts from TSM to defend that. And then we have another one of those crazy rounds as well. We had at least 2, if not 3 of these go down back over on Oregon, where it just seemed like the attackers really had no asks to get into the site, considering the low time situation. But out of nowhere, this time an individual, Biologic, all on his own, brings it all to the table, all the fragging power that was needed, and puts OXG in the winning position to take that round, now with a 2-0 lead.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by...
That was such a play with Habana. That was insanity from Biologic right there. That is a highlight play inside of that man's career. I mean, Habana, especially inside of, those means, you have a very low mag capacity gun, and then to, finish it off with the bailiff at a pretty decent range as well. I mean, what a round from him. But that's going to be something that TSM are not going to smile upon at all. Not only a team kill onto Bolo, which could have changed up the entire round. I mean, we saw the positioning of Bio as well. He was poised at the top of yellow. So Bolo definitely could have done something there to try and have an effect on that. He fought his way, over towards the arcade balcony, taking multiple gunfights with Daycare and everything else. So having Bolo there could have changed up that entire round. But that's in the past now, folks. TSM have to focus on the future of this map and try and slow down Oxygen's very aggressive offense.
All right. So Oxygen out on the board yet again here. Going to see the same defense put up by TSM. And they have pretty good reason to go back to this site too, considering just how close the previous defense was. Really only one player from Oxygen making the difference, if you look at it that way. So TSM definitely going to be of the feeling that they're not too far off from a win here if they go for the repeat. Regardless, though, the clear is going to be done in similar fashion by Oxygen. Heavy emphasis on the drag and drop into control, as well as the windows and the cache door as well, in order to give them their first bits of map control. TSM, for the most part, as you can see, is respecting that, just holding the extremities of the next rooms over, as Merc will try to deny any players that look to push their way deeper into cache, as well as the players with the setup to try and deny control access as well over on the other side.
Well, as you were saying, seems to be a very similar setup here, and Oxygen's actually working pretty quickly this time around. We're still going to have Laxing dedicated to the sniper rifle of Kali, which could, once again, be a big game changer if he can make a large impact. But so far, it's been the Biologic show, as well as Foxe in tow in that previous round. TSM, very slow to start here, but now Merc with a very early kill onto Vertical. Vertical just not having the greatest day.
Fortunately not. Slash, meanwhile, is going to look for some revenge, but Merc wants the challenge. He gets Slash, drops the diffuser in the process. That factor might not have been confirmed by our defender here just as of yet, but regardless, Oxygen are moving full steam ahead in anyway, trying to move in and take initiation for themselves, but Geo also ready to take on that challenge. Foxe not able to line up the shot. Geo waiting for his next opponent. He may very well get it in the form of the Kali here. Laxing, who gets to the edge of control, but is understandably being very cautious about pushing it any further than that. He needs the capability to get this one shot off against Geo and just barely misses it too. Goes right over his shoulder. Bio finds his first kill in the round. That's a promising start from an incredibly promising player who's already given us one amazing round. Can he do it again? He'll also need to go back and retrieve that kit at a certain point here for to keep his team in it. But no, Geo inches out the headshot one more time here as he takes out Bio. Bolo still in the fight as well here. Finishes things off as he confirms the last kill on Laxing.
I feel like I'm driving a Tesla right now. We had to pull over for a trickle charge the way these kills are coming in. This is something incredible right here. So Oxygen just continually trying to take these gunfights from TSM, losing them on almost every single occasion. They finally refrag onto Merc, but as you know, typical Merc fashion, the damage is already done. He's killed 2 people. So to get him off the top of the yellow, that's, again, small potatoes for those kind of situations. It really didn't change up too much. He's already removed so much utility from you guys, and you don't even have enough utility at your disposal with your current means to try and force your way onto site. You have to try and get those picks, and they could not produce when it came to that. Amazing round there from TSM, and some beautiful stuff from Merc to lead us off inside of that last round. But looking into round 4 now, though, we are already going to have a 6 pick. We had the Oryx Flash, which usually when you see something very weird come into a lineup, that's usually the operator that is going to be 6 pick. We don't see them stuck too often, but it definitely does happen. This time around, though, not going to be the case. We're shifting Geo back over onto the mute.
We're also going to see Laxing change up his positioning a little bit here too. No longer going to be bringing the Kali, but still, in terms of gun roll, going to be in a very similar place here. He'll just be on a DMR instead of a bolt action rifle. But either way, is going to be serving to get intel rather than serving as a way to get past any sort of setups anymore. So we'll move on to the Dokkaebi. Also going to add some smokes into this as well. So now 4 smokes total on Oxygen to potentially use here against the setup from TSM. But keep in mind, we also don't have a Jaeger either, and no Amai, of course, because he's banned out. So actually, really easy capability for Oxygen to try and set up some smoke executes here if they want to go for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the Dokkaebi going to assist as well in that, like you were saying. But I think bringing the Dokkaebi inside of this lineup is going to assist them with dealing with the roam game of TSM. They continually want to put Merc upstairs in tandem with Achieved to apply pressure to this offense. It really hasn't worked out too well for TSM, all except for that last round. But you can't necessarily count that too much as a roam. We didn't have too many people necessarily off of site. So for TSM now, it's back to what we saw prior, where Oxygen were able to get those early picks on the roam game, but this time it seems that they want to play it a little bit more passive. But that's where Laxing comes into play with those calls. As long as he's able to get some good intel and Oxygen have a decent amount of drones alive, you can simply clear the map based off of audio, which looks to be exactly what Oxygen want to do. Look at the drone economy right now and their timing. I mean, there's so much time left on the board. All they got to do is adjust, drop one of those phone calls, and they know exactly what's going on.
2 of them have been lost. Speak as we continue the discussion on drones here, and much like many of the previous rounds, Laxing has already moved pretty far ahead, as has Foxe here, pushing quite a few players back. That first phone call having come in will scare off at least a couple of the roamers from their current positions, forcing them to play into something later on in the round. And that something may actually be a downstairs flank, because Oxygen hasn't been too concerned with clearing out things downstairs here. We're going to see those players rotate back down, but ultimately they are just falling back to the site to play into that, trying to ultimately avoid death here as Oxygen inches closer and closer to them, and that phone call gives them a very scary reminder of the situation they could be facing if they die out.
I have the utmost respect for this from TSM. They want to stay alive because they know they're good in these last-second gunfights, especially from the defensive half, like we heard about Jesse talk about on the analyst desk. This team is so strong on this defensive side that it's really, really difficult to try and even get these rounds. Oxygen obviously has been doing a bang-up job, but anytime that TSM are able to get back to form, they're going to run into these problems. Nitrocell out here for Geo, but it's going to be shot out of the air once again. Now Oxygen have access to site, but it's going to be on the Throne's side. Still plenty of time for them to make some adjustments, though, and they have Biologic with some extra hard destruction power at their disposal.
Keep in mind, guys, this is an incredibly tense round. We are at 30 seconds. Not a single player has taken any damage as of yet. It's only been gadgets that have been shot so far in this round, but that is going to be changing very, very soon. Slash with a great judgment call to peel away from that breach there, but ultimately just walks him into another setup as Achieved is waiting for him over by the Dragon Door. Other players trying to push in from the breach. Slash has not been confirmed yet, by the way, so he will get brought back up into the fold. That AK-12 is still a factor. Chala, though, finally meets his first target here, strikes first, as he's also going to be able to smoke out another player entirely. Merc will get the third, and this seems like it's slowly collapsing the folks on Oxygen, and unfortunately they won't even get to fully collapse, as the time will run out first and TSM will take the round, tying us up.
Well, it goes to show you exactly why TSM backed up. They knew that they could play it off of timer, and Oxygen with no picks, not able to work their way into sight off of, you know, any actual pressure. They got the map for the most part, but they end up going with a Throne attack. And with that being said, it's very difficult to try and get those picks on the throne side that you necessarily need, especially in a 5v5. There's a lot of crossfires that you have to worry about, and there's no vertical on that side of the map. So you can't really apply pressure all except for horizontally. And since the Dragon Door was locked down, all they had to worry about was the breach. There's definitely no one coming through Split. I mean, the only person that we saw even motion towards Split was the last remaining member of Oxygen. So TSM shutting down Oxygen on all fronts inside of that last round. Oxygen needing to go back to the drawing board.
TSM honing in on a bit of a winning strategy here now. They are going to continue to play into the first floors. That seems to be working out fairly well for them. Now up towards the lab site, where, as I talked about this in the pregame, we're going to see an interesting strategy unfold here, as there'll still be an extended roam over in the adjacent site on this floor. The same strategy works in reverse as well. This one should waste a lot of time because Throne Room is essentially an impenetrable box, especially if you reinforce all the walls inside of it. It can be a real pain in the butt for attackers to clear out a roam presence inside of there. Same can be said to a certain extent for the lab hold when being done against the throne site.
Okay, well, Oxygen now outside of the gate and to the races. See if they can finally break this curse as TSM has linked some rounds together. Oxygen now need to battle back. But even if they don't get around on the rest of their offense, they're still looking pretty. Theme Park very defensive sided, as TSM shown inside of these last two rounds. Difficult, especially when the defense are able to get those extremely pivotal early picks. So TSM going to have the extended hold here on Drug. This is something that we see all the time here, especially with that pulse being played by Achieved. Good intel game for them once again. So now Oxygen just going to prioritize the top floor clear here, and that's really, well, par for the course. TSM has been roaming for most of this map, and they're going to continue to do so on that top side, with Geo out now getting lit up through the yellow wall, I do believe, as he scurries off towards Arcade Balcony. He's going to need some assistance here, otherwise he definitely has to give up this spot. No drones on him now, so chooses to hop on over, and Oxygen now have the top floor control.
Still has a bit of an angle to play off of here from the inside of barrels, and can be a lot more passive about it too, which will work out great considering his remaining HP. It will, however, give more control over to the attackers and more capability for them to set up and execute within the late round. The faster these roamers give up their upstairs positions, the more time Oxygen has to set up their descent into the actual bomb site. So with a minute and a half remaining, I would say Oxygen have completed that goal. Plenty of excess time. Now all the pressure falls to TSM to make sure they can begin to counter this out, whether it's through winning the fights on the top-down angles or, similarly to the last round, winning the fights on the execute itself.
Oh, great patience so far from TSM. Really no utility usage from the Nitro cells, all except for Merc with a premature one, but still have two that they can possibly use to throw some artillery at this offense. But most of this verticality from Oxygen's already been set up, and now seems as though they want to prioritize the drug lab side. Still have to worry about the TSM members inside of Throne, though, and this is where you call to question exactly how is this offense going to work their way into lab. It seems as though they can possibly get pinched from inside Throne. TSM want to try and bully their way out the back door, but Laxing's already set up. Gets a nice pick onto Geo, and now TSM trying to find some other means to work their way back in and assist their teammates.
Although going to try to play up towards yellow stairs here. He has found an opening. There's no one resisting it right now, and he has additional info from Achieve to confirm that. Merc has also found success, I believe, closer to the site itself, as he takes out Foxay and starts bringing the numbers down. Yeah, you can see him still deep in the site there. Might have been able to get that on a top-down. Problem is, he's still got more pressure coming his way, as Bio is now going to take up a very similar position. The good news is Bolo's here to save the day. Slash also going to get dropped now that Merc has the confidence to swing over towards the billiards window. Vert's going to try to hop in over here, and he'll be supported by Laxing. A nice double pickup from them to move in. However, Merc is there just as quickly to work with Bolo to shut down those two remaining pushes and give the round over to TSM, as they now take the lead at 3-2.
For the very first time on Theme Park, TSM is in lead, and doing it in spectacular fashion. 3 rounds in a row. Daycare, Armory, and Drug all done and dusted. Now they can head right back to Bunk and Daycare and try and lock up yet another round. But TSM inside of these last 3 rounds have looked like absolute dynamite. Light the fuses, because these guys are on fire for sure. TSM just getting more aggressive, but also being patient and seeing how Oxygen want to handle the map. Oxygen failed to try and handle any crosses coming from inside of Throne. They had the flank route watched, but they were not concerned about the bottom of yellow or yellow stairs at all in particular, and that's where the problems really arose for these Oxygen members. We saw Bolo later on prioritize that to utilize that flank and was able to have a very large impact on that vertical play later on, when TSM really was at a point where it could have went either way. Man count was almost even. If they were able to, maintain that yellow control, or at least have some form of information on it, Oxygen might have been able to fight through that, but it was definitely not in the cards for them. TSM in the lead now as they're trying to force this to 4-2.
Back upstairs here as well for TSM. Both the downstairs sites are locked for play and are going to remain that way as it's the last round of the half. So instead, they have to go over here towards bunks, where there's been a bit of a mixed result for the most part here in terms of how they've handled these attacks against Oxygen. I believe a 1-for-1 is the current record here, so we'll have to see if they can run it back once again. To be fair to them, though, the most recent one, I believe, was the successful one. So hopefully a lot of repeating the same thing there can bring them success and set us up at a 4-2 scoreline. Oxygen very much wants to get into the way of that, though, and TSM seems to be very well aware of the fact that Oxygen are probably going to try to swing into initiation. So they've got a Banshee there to prevent that, as well as a whole lot of additional utility coming in from other defenders as well.
I think this call was, hey, they're going to try and kill Geo, so let's just throw all of our utility where Geo plays and let Geo kill all of them. That's probably what was going through TSM's heads, as we've dedicated 2 Banshees, a deployable shield, as well as an ADS here, all for a guy with an SMG-11. Not saying that Geo can't do it, because he definitely has the means with this cross setup with Bolo, but my God, man, that is quite a bit of utility. And what a setup from these two. I mean, you have to worry about that Vector at range, as well as Geo possibly close with a shotgun. So it seems as though they want to prioritize the office side instead, and this is being held down by Merc still at the top of yellow. This is where we saw him get that 2K the last time around, but doesn't end up picking up an early kill like we saw prior. Goes fishing still, but Vertical able to slip away.
Bit of quiet within the round here, is once again, similarly to some of the previous rounds here, we're going to go very, very deep into the round with anyone barely taking any damage here, Geo being the most obvious example of that. He's an under or over 90, I should say, or possibly right on 90. He took only a sliver of damage from before, and besides that, no one has even taken a hit here. Got this very, very scary looking passive fight going on right now over at initiation. They've just lost the Banshee. They try to throw a Nitro into it. That's not going to work out, but Bolo's assistance will, however, only enables a 1-for-1, as Fox is still able to manage Geo. Merc is able to put down a push elsewhere, as I believe they try to swing in for office control too, leading to mixed results there, and ultimately still leaving TSM with the man advantage, but only by 1.
And that's going to be the big problem, as TSM has worked their way back to site. Now just get to lie and wait and see if Oxygen can try and force a pick here. They almost had one as Merc scampered back into daycare, but definitely did not happen, and Oxygen desperately needed it. Foxe now doing his best Ash main impression as he crouches around, vending here. Still sitting outside daycare. Vertical needs to clear these angles, though. They're worried about Merc possibly on Arcade or Palm Tree, and you damn well better be, because TSM all around this site still. Oxygen needs this pick to work in, but it might be Merc that's a little bit quicker to the trigger.
Merc waiting for his opportunity. Firing a bit prematurely there, gives up the chance, but thankfully corrects it very quickly. However, he'll go down, and Vert will find another player sitting right behind Merc's body. That's Chala going down too. It brings us into a 2v2, but Bolo once again securing things for his squad here. Gets the double as he knocks out Laxing. Vert will be the last to fall, as Achieved seals the deal here. TSM takes round number 6.
Well, 4-2 split for TSM on their defensive half, as we will now be switching sides, folks. Oxygen defense, TSM offense, but overall, great defense from TSM inside of their set. Able to run things for the most part in the latter half of that. So all the way from 3 all the way up to 6 on the round counts there. 1 through 4 are able to pick up that 4th round. Allow me to correct this really quickly. So through round 3 to round 6, they won all of them. That was what I was trying to get to. Just over-explaining things as per usual. So moving quickly past that, TSM on their previous map on Oregon did not have the best time on offense either. And with this 4-2 split coming in, this really could be the time for that overtime to come back into play. I think TSM will still pick up some offensive rounds, but with Oxygen and how dominant they've been in the past here on theme park defenses, it's either going Oxygen's way, or I think we're going to be forcing an OT.
Well, we'll have to find out if that'll be the case. Like you said there, the attacking side is oftentimes the biggest test for teams on this map. It's an incredibly defender-sided map, but TSM getting a lot of confidence brewing off those previous rounds, especially in the case of Merc, and to a lesser extent Bolo. So time to see if they can translate that over to the attacking side. And if not, time to see who from Oxygen will awaken, start igniting this comeback from a 2-4 deficit. TSM is out on the board. We've got the throne defense set up here for OXG, as well as at least one player roaming around upstairs. Let's make that 2, as Laxing is also joining up with this task as well. Let's see if they can do some damage here against the TSM attack.
Okay, well, extended, as you said. Foxe and the rest of the squad upstairs for Oxygen Bio going to be inside of the lab area. So pretty peculiar setup here for the defense, but can most definitely work out. Again, we've seen Oxygen always be very strong on this side of new theme park. So it seems as though TSM want to handle this roam game, though. They've already assigned Merc over to the Jackal. Now they just need to get the pressure on this roam game and start forcing them into these other guns of these TSM members. Some early intel here that's more than likely going to be on to Lax. Let's see exactly what they end up figuring out. Able to track someone, as it actually seems to be Foxe at the bottom of yellow, but that's even more potent. They're able to clear out mostly the top floor here, all based off of that utility. So I mean, so far so good for TSM.
Right use of the Jackal, yeah. It susses out both Laxing and Foxe over the course of that there.
Might want to call an emergency meeting.
Yeah, and now we're going to see a Jaeger get found out too. That one won't be a massive impact though, since it's pretty much on the direct opposite side of the map. That's like old news more than anything else right there. So Bert doesn't have to worry too much about getting pinged out in that situation, as I don't even think he has any pressure coming towards the drum room anyway. But either way, it will start building up closer to the site here, so you'll begin to see a lot of those roam players begin to retreat entirely towards the site or commit to this lab setup that I was talking quite a bit about earlier on in the match. Now we finally get to see it here used by OXG.
TSM is doing such a good job of holding these choke points at the staircases. They take down Biologic inside of, I believe, Lab, but still, I mean, lots of Oxygen members to worry about across the map. They actually still do indeed have someone in Lab. That's Laxing, so that pick coming from other means is going to get droned out, though, and now going to have to make some quick work. Has a Nitro Cell upstairs just waiting to blow that as the verticality comes through. Does some damage to Achieve, but does not end up downing him, and now this is going to be a big problem. Luckily enough, though, most of the drones from TSM dedicated to flank watches, they are worse for wear in that department. Really trying to make this work onto Laxing, but he's the master of disguise as he quickly skimpers around sight, but not before Bolo puts a bullet in his brain. Merc follows suit as well, takes down Foxe. That's all left of the site players here with Slash and Vertical.
Last two here are also going to be the two trying to play closest to the site. Vertical's going to have to wrap back around, but he also might be a surprise. No, never mind. Merc immediately deletes Vertical here. Everything falls to Slash. He's a surprise at first, but he can't make the impact that is needed, so it is a flawless round for TSM as they take the initial on their attack and go up to 5.
Is it just me, or are you sweating? It might be Oxygen, though, because right now I would be sweating. Yeah, and hey, what do you know? As soon as we say that, Oxygen timeout comes in. Thank you so much, production, for that. Timeout from Oxygen, and I mean, it's exactly what you and I are both about to voice, John. This is something that needs to happen right now. The timeout is necessary. They're having massive problems right now. They're down 5-2, and TSM is all of a sudden getting rounds on offense. I don't think that that was supposed to be, inside of the script. All of a sudden, TSM start firing off very early on, especially with Merc having some massive impact on that last round with that Jackal pick.
If there isn't an immediate plan of correction from the leadership of OXG, this pauses absolutely to break down that round. Talk about the things that went wrong and look for those immediate corrections that need to be made. As you said, it has to happen on this round. They cannot let this go to a 2-6 scoreline, as trying to run 4 consecutive rounds without dropping them here, even on defense, right, is going to be a massively tough task for them to be able to get through, because they're going to have to run all the way around their defensive setup, not dropping a single site in the process of rotating it, and then they'll have to complete one additional one after completing the full rotation too. So they need to pick this up now, otherwise they're going to have an incredibly tough time getting back into this game and into this series as well.
Well, there's a lot of problems for Oxygen right now, but obviously the defense is where things are most notable. They need to try and change things up, as you said, but gonna have a big change coming here, something that I don't even think that we've seen picked in this year, century. I don't really know. Yeah, what game was that?
I
Do you
don't even
remember?
remember. I know it was an NA. I just don't remember what game it was.
Are you sure it wasn't FPL over the last 2 days?
No, it wasn't. No, I know it was during an actual. It's definitely been picked at least once this year in NA, but it may only be one other time, just to accentuate the point about how rarely this operator comes up into play.
Yeah, so Frost is here, folks, for those of you that for some odd reason are not looking at the screen right now. Frost is in play, and this is something that we don't see happen too often. Pretty self-explanatory, but for those of you that simply just watch the game and really don't know what this operator does, she has bear traps. You step in it grabs your leg and downs you. Very simplistic, yet very annoying if you end up hopping into one. And funny enough, if you did not know this about her, she actually has an upside-down bell curve for her amount of like productivity that she has inside of ranks.
Oh, really?
So she's super potent inside of silver, not potent at all inside of plat 3 and gold 1, and then super potent inside of diamond because nobody brings her. So when she does get brought, she kills everybody.
There you go, folks. One of the more interesting operator bell curves for Siege right there when it comes to how her skill kind of gets played out in casual matches. But we've got TSM on the board now. They'll more than likely spot out at least one of those mats momentarily here, meaning that they'll immediately start checking the floor when they jump into any window. Slash is inside of Cafe, very much ready to take that fight against Bolo. Tap away to finish him off and knock out one of the most powerful players that's sitting on the TSM roster right now. The big man on campus, though, Merc, has not been taken out just as of yet, so he's still a massive factor here, but he's also been thrown down to low HP now, so that as well is a huge takeaway that Oxygen's going to be able to get for themselves.
Well, even more of an impact besides taking down Bolo, they've now damaged Merc, which obviously you have the exact same problems. It's someone that rarely loses gunfights. This guy's 13-1-4 right now, but TSM now battling back. Slash gets taken down after he gets his first kill of the game, and that's also going to limit the potential of his goo mines. TSM now have a chance to try and make this map and match point here. So Oxygen need to try and fight for this pick. Foxe wants to try and contest here with Laxing as they're holding down most of the arcade area, but specifically Cafe. TSM really don't seem to have a means to work their way inside from this side of the map just yet, but oh no, big pickup here for Bio. Didn't see that one flying in as the Chief gets taken down. Merc follows suit as well. Oxygen well within their right to take this round, and Laxing practically putting in the nail in the coffin with that one. Chala's down. Vertical takes Geo out. Oxygen all over the board as these blue frags just trickle in.
Much more confident stance as well coming in there from Oxygen at that time. Especially as we got to the late round situation, they were denying any type of aggression from TSM throughout that round. Actually, I'm going to take back what I said about it coming in the late round. I mean, even just from the beginning, right? We're seeing players hold the Cafe angle, and right from the start, it knocks out Bolo. So things got really aggressive right from the beginning there from OXG, and every single time it continued to work out for them. They had no reason not to keep doubling down on their own defensive aggression here in order to get a W out of that one.
It's just throwing me right back to Oregon. We've talked about it so much, but the resemblance between both of these maps. Oh, we'll talk about that in a second. Cav be getting picked up from Fox, 6 pick off of mute. But what I was trying to get to, what my point was inside of that discussion, is that Oxygen also doubled down on their aggression inside of that last map. That was something you highlighted after we saw TSM go up with their first attack. Oxygen just started being very, very dominant, very aggressive, and playing some very off angles that people aren't used to dealing with. And since TSM did not have access to a lot of intel, it changed up how they had to do things. So I think Oxygen is going for a very similar, face here, and more than likely going to work out. We already see TSM respecting it, Merc dropping the Jackal, shifting gears on over to the Ash.
So for those who missed my excitement, a Caviera has come into play here now on Foxe. This is another opera, 2 rounds in a row. We're getting a real treat here from Oxygen that we rarely see at the pro level, simply because for the most part, her abilities and what she brings to the table can be countered out very easily by players at this level. But with the success that they found via this really incredible aggression from Oxygen on the previous round, it might actually work in this situation, the Caviera. And of course, her passive, if she gets a chance to use it, upon downing a player, she can interrogate them, giving away every single remaining attacker's position in the game for a considerable period of time. This round, though, not going to start out that great for Oxygen, as Geo gets the opening pick.
Well, they might need Foxay to have an impact more and more. And as you said it, Cav, an operator that can change up a lot of things inside of a game, but she is the most high-risk, high-reward operator that we have inside of Rainbow Six, simply because you have to go through a full animation after you've downed someone. So you can imagine the comms as you have a knife to your throat yelling at your friends to try and get her off your back. We'll see if Foxay can try and make something happen with that, but TSM's got too many drones upstairs right now, and it feels as though he's gonna have to respect that. No way for him to work around. He does have Silent Step, but it's not like Nook. He can't hide it from any vision.
Coming down to that last half of the round here as we inch up on the 130 marker. TSM has that opening pick, but they haven't been able to get anything else just as of yet. They have been able to force a couple players out of position. Slash, most notably, has been shuffled around a couple times over the course of this round due to the drone work that's been going on. Nothing from Foxay just as of yet either, though he's very, very close to potentially being able to do something here, I think within the next 30 to 40 seconds if he tries to go for that flank on the back stairs. The same could even be said for the Legion right now. Oxygen, although they're down a player, they are absolutely not out of this round just yet. Bit of an unfortunate turn of events for Laxing. He'll get spotted out of the corner of his eye by that drone, so he'll have to drop down into barrels. No one will be able to clear him upstairs, and for the time being, he'll remain safe on the extremity of the first floor, same as Foxay, as well as the other roamer here.
The possibility that they were able to throw TSM for a loop there is Laxing landed on the barrels and it seemed to have muffled his drop. TSM swung that door looking for him, but weren't able to find too much there. So good stuff from Laxing to make it even more difficult for TSM. Look at that time right now. 40 seconds remain and only one pick. Drone economy massacred right now for TSM. They'll have some drones to try and get some intel on site, but they really won't know of these, very aggressive angles from Oxygen when they're forcing around the staircases currently. Slashug, the bottom of yellow, working his way into drug. Doesn't see anything through the vertical play, but with very minimal time, this is going to have to be a rush for TSM.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, TSM have basically been on a wild goose chase this entire round, trying to chase down the roam game from Oxygen, and they just haven't been able to find it. Oxygen also did a great job of denying the intel game, so there's not a lot in that respect right now. Bio is going to continue to just absolutely destroy anyone who tries to push in through the billiards window, and the same can be said for the drop downs. Foxay finally coming into the picture a little late in the round, of course, but still has an impact as he gets that final pickup against the player trying to drop down yellow. Bio is the star of the show, though, as he finds the double kill against the players trying to push in from the main site window. It's a nice defense there put up by Oxygen. Seems to be working out here now as they've truly brought it back at 5-4. Only one round away from tying this back up now.
Guy is a whirlwind of a Rainbow Six player. He's been all over the board in every single capacity today, whether it be planting, killing, assisting. He does it all. And for everyone that was preying on the downfall of Biologic, I bet you feel real stupid right now because this guy is playing lights out. Every single time that his name has been called up and he needs to be the most impactful player on this roster, he's been able to achieve it time and time again. So for Bio, the rest of this OXG squad, they need to continue this. Once again, TSM still in the lead. They only need 2 rounds as of right now in order to win this series and not have to drop into the lower bracket. One of these teams has to go on later today to play Dark Zero and losers.
Well, throne defense, if any, is going to be one of the toughest for TSM to break as well. So one of the best chances that Oxygen have to try and tie this up is going to come right here on this round. Let's see if they can get it done. Their roam game has been getting better and better over the past 2 to 3 rounds here. They've been getting a lot more confidence built up to try and stop the TSM takes, even in very early times within the round itself too. If we go back a couple more rounds and look at the aggressive hold they had on Cafe as an example of that. So TSM is working against a lot that wasn't necessarily there at the beginning of this half, and having mixed results trying to deal with it right now. It has to show up now for our attackers. Otherwise, Oxygen is once again going to become a true contender within this map.
And as we've seen from them, in the history of this map, they don't lose theme park. So allowing them to get back into this could be the biggest mistake that TSM have made inside of this series. But it's been quite difficult to try and battle them. As we were talking about previously, doubling down on that aggression has complicated things for TSM. They're trying to figure it out now. Instead of last round where they tried to lean on the utility and work their way into sight, they've now changed things up. Chala on the Yana and Merc back to what he knows best, at least for this map, the Jackal. And honestly, could be the differentiating factor here for TSM. That intel game, I mean, as long as you have Merc and Bolo on the field, you're going to be able to capitalize off quite a lot of that.
A lot of peppered shots going into soft walls more than anything else right now here, as Oxygen's roam game is actually on the move quite a bit here. I got a group of 2 players moving around together downstairs near barrels, so curious to see what they're shaping up for, if not retreating, because we did just see the Jackal move in and get access to Cafe, so it could have been a bit of a panic there to get them back into a much more stable position with the potential scan coming up right around the corner there. But not going to see, actually I think we did just see the first one get used up there as it spots out the Cade. Not much to build off from that. The mute also getting found out here on the second scan, but again, it's deep in the site, so you're not really going to be able to play off that intel at this point. More just affirmation that you're relatively safe and you don't have to worry about the roam game. Now, Vertical is a much, much different story. He's very active. A drone has just confirmed his position, and they know for a fact that he's going to be playing off site here. So there's their first real true target that they need to try and quickly take out before heading towards Throne.
Well, still has some pressure from inside of barrels as well as he contests Bolo, but has to worry about Chief through that verticality, as you were saying. Could possibly have some frag grenades to try and assist with this as well, but Vert's battling back, does quite a bit of damage to Achieve, but still has to worry about this long cross. Contesting Bolo does quite some damage, able to slip through the seams as well. They need to try and shut him down in this bathroom rotate, but Vertical instead chooses to play his life. He knows he can't escape, so why not waste some more time? Oh man, what a double down from him as well. We've been talking about those all day. Now Oxygen in the driver's seat, gonna find some intel here with that Yana, but it's gonna be the Vertical play once again. He's got a drone at his feet. They know exactly where he is. It'll be Merc to clean that up, but the damage has already been done. 20 seconds remain on the clock.
It's TSM that once again has no choice here but to basically rush the site and try to work their way in. OXG will start denying this as Biologic gets one on the Nitro. More players in. Bio with a great train on the situation immediately pops the head off of Chala when he tries to make a move. Laxing's got the other side of this breach. They're trying to play it on cross tangle, but they just have no way in. It's free kills all day long for Laxing as Oxygen now tie it up at 5-all.
Like a kid in a candy store right there. Laxing cleaning up 3 and probably one of the easiest gunfights of his entire career. Very nice triple as Oxygen finally able to stem the tide, and Oxygen fighting back. So, tying things up here with TSM. They're looking really strong coming into this. Their defenses are getting stronger and stronger. That last one in particular, though, we really didn't see the same, song and dance from Oxygen that we expected. Those rounds prior to this were mostly based off of early picks. That time around, it was simply patience from OXG and choosing to play their lives instead of getting aggressive towards TSM. And it really, really worked out for them. I think that Oxygen's, main thing for Theme Park and why they're so good at this map from what I've seen inside of these defenses and prior knowledge is that they switch up the pacing so often and what they're going to do on defense that it's very hard to keep track of what their next move is going to be. And you really need that intel game to arise in order to, counter that. If you don't have that, I mean, how are you going to fight Oxygen when they're consistently, on a roam game, moving back to site, doing all of these things all in one thing, all in one round? It's practically an enigma. You're playing with a very jumbled Rubik's Cube.
Well, the good news for TSM is things should be a little bit easier to grasp, more than likely, with the way that this round should be played out. OXG is setting up for that usual hold against the Dragon push, as they'll now try and win out the round over here on the inside, on the inside of bunks for themselves. So for TSM, they at least generally know what to expect when it comes to the roam game, and shouldn't be thrown for any massive surprises there this time. Now, with regards to what could happen in a mid and late round, that's still completely up in the air, and that's oftentimes where the OXG players have been able to find their impact. So definitely not an assured one for TSM either in that respect, especially when you consider just how well the OXG roster has been doing with their roam game in the past few rounds.
Well, we're 10 rounds deep at this point, round 11 in front of us. 2 members of the teams overall with 10+ kills. Merc for TSM and Biologic for OXG, both showing up in spectacular fashion, specifically Bio doing it from that supporting position, playing Habana and Smoke for most of this game so far. So for Bio especially, what a game, what a series from him once again. Oxygen Still showing an aggressive front. Slash once again showing face inside of Cafe, but it's not nearly going to be as aggressive as we saw the last time. He chooses to back off and wait patiently, which more than likely a pretty damn good idea. TSM trying to force their way upstairs. Is Mert going for something a little cheeky? He wants to work his way up those arcade stairwell, or at least the arcade stairwell. So he works his way to the top, but not able to find too much. Actually might be able to get into a contestant here, as we see Foxy dancing back and forth on the daycare door, but just seems to be contention for now.
Oh, Foxy, a nice dodge there, gets out of the way of a nade that would have certainly killed him had he tried to stay on the angle there. But at the same time, Vertical was lost off screen. No more Goyo for the rest of this round. Laxing on the Jaeger is slowly getting chipped down bit by bit. It's not Foxy that gets that kill for the record. It's Bio that manages to get it from over here at the stairs, although it looked very impressive from Foxy's perspective. Not meant to be on that pick right there. So down into a 4v4 now, and also coming down to the last minute. TSM have their initial control, but much like many rounds before, are struggling to get out and get to the actual site because of these stragglers that are on the borders.
And this is going to be the most difficult part for them, since Oxygen's been allowed to survive for the most part. These crossfires are very dangerous for them to try and walk into now. You can see TSM is trying to put pressure on multiple fronts, but this is the problem when a defenseman is able to work his way out and get a pick. You've now cleared up that entire portion of the map. You're now down to a one-front attack, but it doesn't matter when your name's Jason Bolo, as he takes down two with two clean headshots. Still has plenty of find, as well as some TSM members in tow to assist. Chala starts to plan up. Gio's got one for himself. Slashug, the only member that remains, and he's not going to last very long. TSM cleans him up, and they get their first offensive round in quite some time.
So unfortunate for Slash there at the end. Possibly had a chance to make the flank work, but his aim gets thrown off by a dead body. Ends up getting taken down there in the 1v3. TSM regain their control just when we had thought that they had begun to lose it to this very strong OXG defense. A pause is going to be called here, more than likely from the OXG roster. We'll get confirmation on that in a moment. But this is it. This is do or die time here for the folks on OXG to try and bring it back now or forever have to fight in the lower bracket. And just to confirm, it is a TSM timeout coming up on this round.
And what a time to call it as well. I mean, there's a term inside of the NFL, right? Icing the kicker. And this is something that you can utilize inside of this game as well, or really anything, right? Like when it comes down to a crunch time where people are going to have, a lot of pressure on them, a lot of anxiety building up. If you just take that time to not only, take a breath for your own team and make sure you're all good and the game plan set, you're also giving the other team time to wonder and really get inside of themselves about that. And you're hoping to really have someone have that little, mental dip where they're not as, strong as they once were.
It's not even just that. Remember, we're going back to lab and storage here now. There was a lot of problems with the last attack against that site from TSM, many of which more than likely they haven't had a good chance to discuss what exactly went wrong there and how they're going to fix it. So this pause is more than likely really a lot of prep for figuring out how they're going to deal with that roam game, which caused them a lot of issues and essentially just drained their timer the last time they attacked this site, and how they're actually going to get their way in, because again, because they didn't deal with that roam game, they had to walk into a setup against an M590 shotgun there, and it went pretty much as you would expect in that situation.
Yeah, the shotgun's pretty good. I don't know if anyone's ever said that. I mean, M590 is pretty strong gun. But we're going to have OXG bringing in the Frost once again on Fox Day. So probably going to be very similar positions with Bio and that shotgun. Honestly, might be a very similar show. TSM's going to have to put some pressure onto the site. Bio's got a lot of utility centralized around him inside of the drug storage area. So they're going to have to go through Bio in order to make this happen. Last time around, we saw TSM favor that vertical play, but they weren't able to really get any of the picks that were necessary to actually get onto the site. We saw them try and get them through some pretty creative means, achieved with a frag grenade upstairs as he prone on the floor and things along those lines, but with the deployable shields and everything set up from Oxygen, it was very small tosses towards this defense. There was nothing that they could really do to try and make something happen.
So here we go, guys. TSM out on the table once again here. Their last chance to close it out in regulation and seal the deal for a 2-0 on this series. Otherwise, they're going back into overtime yet again against Oxygen, where Oxygen will have the chance to seal back their own map pick, be able to send us to a third and final map on Villa in order to decide this series. Similarly to the last attack, A lot of the initial pressure from TSM is going to immediately build up over here on Cafe, with Merc being the first player to swing in. The drone should have confirmed the position of the frost mat, so yep, that'll quickly get shot out by Merc. No one getting tripped up by that one. Also quickly going to start opening up some floorboard access here too, as it would appear for Merc right there. Or rather, probably just taking out something on the floor, probably a Banshee, more than likely getting in their way there. So Merc just making sure he has clearance, and not finding any other resistance here besides that shield. He's going to be able to actually get a lot of control early on, and ultimately just force Laxing to fall back a little bit, temporarily probably, from his current position.
Well, we could see some aggressive plays here, but Sheev is already ready for the hop out from Foxe inside of Break. So TSM now actually with the big early kill onto Vertical from, I don't necessarily know where, that Jaeger getting taken down. I believe he's inside of sight as well, if I remember the setup correctly. So what a pick from then. Yeah, more than like, actually
yellow.
He tried to rotate up yellow. Yeah, it gets taken down on the yellow rotate instead. So TSM have a firm grip on this top floor. Foxe, actually the only remaining member upstairs. But here's the problem. No one's droned Break. They have no idea that he's here at all.
And he hasn't moved an inch either, so there's pretty much zero chance they have info on him via an audio cue. This could be very, very dangerous when it comes to a late round situation, as we have yet to see him move from that position and potentially try and pinch. Here we go, though. Foxe moves out. There's the surprise. Down is going to go the diffuser. Unfortunately, he wasn't expecting another player to his left out the doorway. So it is quickly exchanged / bit of a scary angle right there, though, as that is a soft panel he was aiming into. But obviously he can't see those silhouettes, so we're not going to get any crazy frags coming from that. The defender's down to 3 here now. Slash, I like the angle he's taken. It's going to be able to equalize things now as he lines up the kill against Bolo. Chooses not to stick around. Falls back, into the split room instead to try and play out from there.
Also have some frag grenades for TSM. That's the last one as Achieve tosses it in, but it doesn't do any damage. Bio still existing in this corner. Deployable shield gone, but TSM's now planting. Shala gets taken down. Laxing does it again with a double as he shuts things down inside of the late round. No case control, and Achieve's got to let it happen. 1 versus 3. No chance in hell that he can bring this back. TSM allow overtime after Slash cleans up the kill on yellow.
The upstairs defense is very scary, even though we do see some valiant attempts from the OXG roster to try to shut that down. But thankfully for the rest of the team, the downstairs crew is ready and able to hold off against the swings from TSM. Starts out with that beautiful play, the nice pick that was gotten from the inside of barrels against the arcade stairs push, and things begin to fall apart from that point forward, mainly again from the efforts, I believe, from Laxing there. So just like map number 1, we head into overtime to settle this. A full 3 rounds will be played out. The winner of 2 out of 3 of those will take the map.
It will indeed, my friend. They will indeed. And Oxygen going to be starting on defense. And they've been so potent so far throughout this entire series on the defensive side. So obviously going to be in the favorable position. Gonna have a 6 pick once again away from the Oryx. I wish you guys would stop with this because I really want to see somebody play Oryx, but you just keep baiting me and honestly hurting my feelings. So I'm gonna need you guys to stop. But for Oxygen, this is a really, really strong, the place to start with. Starting on the defensive side, they're gonna be very comfortable here, and honestly I would like to see more of an impact here from Lax, and he start to step up in these last handful of rounds, and all of a sudden he shot up to double digits along with Bio. So OXG finally getting that potency inside of the frag department that they need to fight up against TSM, and Laxing bringing a lot of that work with him.
Now that we're on defense, Laxing I think is also in a much more comfortable environment for him to be able to frag out on. So definitely going to see some much better results out of him from this half of the equation. And it's even better served, of course, that he gets to play 2 out of 3 of these rounds on that side. TSM out on the attack for the first time here in quite a bit. We'll get to see if they can try and bring themselves back under control. Be able to finally piece together a few of these rounds, putting them ahead in OT. And maybe, just maybe, sealing the deal on this series for a 2-0 victory. As if not, OXG is going to tie us up. We'll head over to Villa. Away from that, pressure once again, at least early from TSM, is going to be working its way into Cafe.
Well, this is something that we've seen from both of these teams time and time again. Laxing and Fox, the Roam duo on Roam. That's exactly what you would expect in very similar positions. So TSM more than likely going to check this out with some drones and try and have Merc make an impact here. Fox A still making some rotates upstairs, specifically on the arcade balcony, but they definitely know that this is going on now as they've already pressured onto the windows for break. So early re here onto Laxing. Merc ends up taking him down, and that's the power of this player right here, folks. Laxing dead in the water extremely early on.
Now they know that Fox is around here because of the noise he made earlier. This player on rappel absolutely hurt it. Great denial, by the way, there from Bio. That stops Merc from doing anything else. Fox a bit too bold as he tries to go for the hop out shotgun shot. Does not pan out, and Bolo will win out that fight, putting TSM back into control now with about a minute and a half left.
This is the best offensive run we've seen from TSM so far. Even with Merc down, the amount of time that they have on the board with Zofia and everything else accounted for, they have the utility to not only handle this, but the guns available to hold crossfires and get a plant down successfully. So this is where Oxygen needs to step up to the plate, and we need to see these defensive members make a stand. This more than likely is going to be on Bio. He's had such a good day once again, and he doesn't want to slow down anytime soon. Although he is going to get some X-Kairos off the hatch. Nice electro call play from him.
So able to deny that. Nade's going to get chucked down. It does destroy it. Is there a second one available for Bio to chuck out there? I don't believe so. So hatch is going to be reopened on the second X-Kairos charge. It seems as though all three have already been used. So none of the three walls guarding the site are going to be able to be opened up, as there's no additional hard breach available for the attackers. May not prove itself to be a major problem, however, as we still have other ways for TSM to get themselves into the site. Ultimately, it'll have to be without taking down the walls, because like I said, we're missing that crucial piece of utility. Bio trying to take a fight on a top-down angle, quickly learns his lesson from that one and is shuffled away. Ultimately, still to be taken down by probably a very similar angle from Achieved there. Bolo will find the next one, and now everything falls to Slash. This is a must-win round for OXG. Good first initial shot finds the head of Bolo and takes him out. That's a dangerous player, but three more still need to be found, and the problem now is that the timer is ticking in the other direction. It's working against him, not for him, and eventually, so will those bullets from Chala. They'll take out Slash. TSM get the opening round in OT. They're only one more away now from solidifying the series.
Well, some very bad situations there for OXG. Early kill onto Laxing, and then Fox A just getting caught off guard inside of break. He got a lot of pressure from the window, but that was really it until the drone rolled in at the very last second. But he'd already dedicated himself to the hop out. But Bolo just that much quicker and thinking really, really far ahead on that one, ended up rappelling down the side of the building. Caught him off guard there. So TSM really just snowballing their early frags, and that was truthfully it. They got the early frags, they played their time, and then just slowly got rid of Oxygen as they tried to make plays. That was really, really well done from TSM. There's nothing else really to say about that. They even covered the flank from Bathroom. That was the last spot that I thought that they would have any intel at all.
Attackers need to locate
Baited out again there on the Oryx pick, as it's going to go over towards the...
He's hurting me.
Yeah, it's going to go still unachieved here, as it'll go over towards the Mozzie instead. So still no Oryx in play, and probably is going to remain that way, unfortunately, unless Oxygen gets another attacking round here. And even then, hasn't been a part of their strategy before, so not expecting it to come in now. But it is another throne defense here from TSM. The setup here on the site itself should be incredibly similar, if not identical, to what we just saw from Oxygen. Just no site denial, obviously, as we don't have the Cade.
Honestly, I'm surprised that TSM ended up going with this. This is one of the sites that Oxygen ended up beating them on, but I mean, well, actually, they ended up getting the plant on Daycare as well, so I guess, you know, the lesser of two evils is exactly what they're going to go with. So instead of going with Daycare, which they played a couple more times, they ended up going with Armory instead, so we'll see how that works out. It looks as though TSM really want to get aggressive towards this east side and try and get some early picks. This is something that we saw early on from Bolo, but not in tow with Merc. This is where things have changed up, and this could really throw Oxygen for a loop, as I don't believe that they've seen this just yet.
Now, Merc more likely going to have himself a tiny little hole to play off of there, but seeing the drone work its way through, that is going to scare him away, if only temporarily here. Bolo is also going to have to change up position. It's looking like we saw most of them just pull out completely, though. Yeah, they're not holding over on this side at all now. They've fallen back entirely and are playing to the back arcade hall now.
Well, slow beginnings here, but obviously neither of these teams wanted to make any mistakes inside of overtime. So Going to take us some time to get down to the bloodlust that everybody loves so much inside of Rainbow Six with those quick executions. But so far, so good for TSM on this roam game. They're wasting so much time right now, specifically from Bolo, taking out quite a few drones in the process. Actually, initial one, but able to get a secondary here as he hops on over. Merc's already left the premises as well. Full top control on over to Oxygen.
Round is going to continue to boil up in a relatively passive way here as we enter that final half of the round, again with very little action occurring even on the roam game. Like I said, TSM wasted no time on pulling back every single one of their roaming players and either moving them entirely into the site or focusing their defense entirely on the back halls towards Arcade. So this leaves pretty much the entire east side of the building open now for the attackers to do with as they please. Nitro's going to go through. It doesn't sound like it got the X-Kairos, though, so those are still going to go off without a bang, and the Nitro obviously not going to deal any damage. Not much coming from that utility there, unfortunately.
That's going to be a really big problem for TSM. They now have to worry about that crossfire, and Oxygen still applying pressure from upstairs. No means for them to keep this hatch locked either, but a Chief can obviously play it at least with a gun to make sure no one can drop down. Merc trying to get into a gunfight with Bio, but the longer he exists here, more pressure is going to be put onto him. He knows where the fights are coming from, though. Still has to worry about the hatch. Nitro cell out, but he walks right back into the line of sight of Vertical, who ends up taking him down. Again, not the best day for Vertical, but this kill, so very impactful on this round. Oxygen need this in order to stay inside of winner's bracket. Bolo with a very nice move here, trying to play time. Oh my goodness gracious. Can he do it? He takes down one, can't get the second. Oh, very quiet footsteps there. It's an equal trade, but with minimal time remaining, TSM has to try and lock down all doors, batten the hatches as Oxygen tries to force their way in. They need this plant and they need it now. Ace is going off, but it's a pick for Fox across the field. Gio takes down one, achieved with the other, and TSM lock it out on time as Slash drops the case inside of maintenance.
You can even see it too. Their teammates right on top of them. What a clutch kill from Gio, and no way of knowing it was the player with the diffuser, to be fair, but thank goodness it does end up being that case. All he has to do once he downs that player is duck down and hope that no one's going to be able to get to him in time for that zero timer. And that's exactly what happens, folks. TSM shut down the opening match of the series. They will move onward into the upper bracket finals. Unfortunately for OXG, their day is not done just yet. They still have to fight another match here in the lower bracket.
Yeah.